That's Stacey Blackwood. I'm Clint Lamb, and this is Strength and Conditioning on the Cover Crimson YouTube channel. Stacey, it's been a little while. Haven't got to talk to you. Excited to get to talk to you a little bit. What better way than to go over first, kind of, we're not going to focus too much on Georgia. We'll talk about some things, but I mean, that's kind of, it's Thursday. We'll probably ride this thing a little bit longer than we would the typical game just because it was such an incredible game. But we'll also be covering Vanderbilt. But first of all, because I haven't got a chance to really talk to you about it, just what were your thoughts on last weekend's game?
I don't even know where to start. It was, I mean, strange, exciting, unforgettable. I mean, those are just some words that kind of describe, what happened Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. One of the best college football games that I remember watching, and just the ebbs and flows of the game. It was really just two powerhouse programs who it really wasn't a blow for blow type game. It was Alabama lands a haymaker in the first half, Georgia lands them in the second half, and the final 2 minutes, Alabama finds a way to regain their composure and come away with a win. Just an incredible game. I think if you're both Alabama and Georgia, from Alabama's point of view, you have to love the way you started that game and what you saw from your offense and the way the defense was forcing turnovers. And if you're Georgia, you have to love the fact that you were able to battle back in the second half on the road in a hostile environment and make the plays to, eventually take the lead somehow, with just a couple minutes left to go in the game. And then once again, the composure from Milroe and the unbelievable magical play of Ryan Williams somehow, not only just to catch the football, but to make the defenders miss and score a touchdown. I don't even know where to begin with that dude either. It's just, the game was over, and I was obviously I was still scratching my head, like, how did all of that just happen in one football game? So incredible game, one that I'm sure we'll all remember for a very long time. It's up there with, the way, 2nd and 26 went down as just one of the most exciting games in Alabama football history. And it's nice that they were able to come away with a win, but you gotta think, man, the way, and I don't want to take anything away from Georgia, and I'm not among the people who think Alabama took their foot off the gas. They didn't. You have to give Georgia credit, but if you're Alabama, man, you can't allow even a team like Georgia to make that type of comeback in that game, and it almost cost them. So I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned if you're Kalen DeBoer and if you're Alabama. So just what a game, exciting, and now the trick is shifting the focus to Vanderbilt and playing on the road against a Vanderbilt team that's really better than what they've been in a long time.
Yeah. I will say, watching the first half of that game on Saturday, I can't remember a time. There was some late games against Auburn, the last two times it's been Auburn, where I had a hard time kind of remembering everything that happened. Yeah. Kind of the analytical side of what you're trying to, I was so baffled by what was taking place that I was having a hard time tracking what was actually taking place on the field, because I'm spending all of my time between snaps and stuff trying to figure out, okay, how is this whole thing transpiring the way that it is? It was so lopsided and so unexpected. Turnovers will do that to you, but just no success from Georgia's offense. Alabama goes out there 4 straight possessions. It's 28-0 before you can even blink, it feels like. It was different, a lot different than really any game that I can remember, just because, under Nick Saban and, in very few games, you would think, okay, even against really good teams, it was like, if this thing gets out of hand, if Alabama's playing Clemson, Deshaun Watson and Clemson in the national championship, and that gets lopsided and Alabama dominates them, I could point to a lot of things as to why that could have happened. Even though both those games ended up being really close, I'm saying, like, Alabama jumping up 28-0 on those guys and those types of games, Ohio State, which they did in the national title, Notre Dame, as long as I can remember, being up 28-0 against a team under Nick Saban just never felt surprising to me. And it's not that it was a Kalen DeBoer thing. It was the fact that it was Georgia. You thought Georgia was going to want to make a statement. But just and that's an interesting thing that you bring up as far as the conservativeness, because coming out of the game, my initial thought was Alabama went super conservative at the beginning of the second half. And then I went and watched, and the first time through, which was on Sunday, I'm like, okay, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of conservative play. And then you go and you look further, you start to compare it to the first half, and it's like, okay, I do think they did get conservative. Here's the thing, though. I don't think it was super conservative. I think they were very conflicted between trying to be aggressive and trying to be conservative. Like they would be aggressive on first down, it wouldn't be successful, and then they run the ball twice after that kind of thing. Where it's like, okay, we got to take some clock off of, with this drive. We can't go 3 and out, throw the football 3 times, and then give it back to Georgia. But it was only for a couple of drives, and the reason for that is Georgia was able to pull it so close. Once you're up by 15, once it's 30-15, you start taking, you can't take that approach. There was way too much time. There was 5 minutes left in the third quarter when Georgia made it 30-15. So at that point, I mean, you still got 20 minutes of football left, and you can't afford to be conservative. You got to start playing your game again. I think it was tough for Alabama to get back into the game. That they were playing like they had lost all the momentum, all the juice. And I think that's really where they struggled. There are other things that we've talked about, the fourth downs for Georgia, all of those things. But for Alabama, okay, this is some of the stats that I, came across as I was actually doing some research on this. Number one, Alabama ran the football about 35% of the time in the first half. So it was like a 65-35 split. In the second half, it was a 55-45 split. So that's a 20-point swing as far as going up and going down. Not only that, but on 6 of the 7 drives, possessions in the first half, Alabama threw the football on first down on 6 out of the 7. There were 7 possessions in the second half as well, but one of those was the kneel down, so I don't count that. So there were 6 possessions. Of those, Alabama threw the ball 2 times out of 6. So you go from 6 out of 7 to 2 out of 6. Big discrepancy in my opinion, but like I said, and it was like they would have success, like they were aggressive on that field goal drive. They come out, they run the football on first down, and then they throw 2 to Ron Williams back to back. It was a 12-yard gain and a 54-yard gain. As soon as they got in the red zone, though, they're like, hey, we're up 30-15. All we need is a field goal now, and it's back to being a 3-score game. We need to run clock here. And then we take the field goal, we take the W. And so what did they do? They run Jalen Milroe. It was a running back run, or it might have been 2 back-to-back design quarterback runs. Either way, they ran the first 2 downs, and then it was a safe bubble pass to Justice Haynes on third down. That's essentially an extension of your run game. Right. It was, you weren't going to really do anything with it, get anywhere. They were trying to throw in some variety, and then they kick the field goal and they go up 33-15. So it was, after the turnover, that was the other drive to me that really stood out. It's on the 47-yard line going in. You're up 33-15. It's first down, and they go out there, they run the ball twice, and then it was like some kind of, screen or something to Justice Haynes. Yeah. So it was like, they weren't aggressive. Typically after a turnover, when you're across midfield, first down, you're taking a shot, especially this Alabama offense. So, yeah, I think they got a little conservative for a while, but they just couldn't stay in that mentality long enough because Georgia made it a football game.
Yeah, it was and I feel like I'm saying the same thing over again. The weirdness of this game cannot be overstated. It was just, it's a game that you're probably not likely to see as far as the way it played out for a very long time, regardless of the 2 teams that are in the matchup. Just an incredible game, like I mentioned, and I do see what you're saying about. I want to give Georgia credit because I think it's so easy not to give the other team credit, but Georgia did change some things up defensively. They kind of went a little bit back to what they did against Jalen Milroe in that SEC championship game in the second half, and it kind of limited what he was able to do as far as getting wide on the defense on the design runs. They limited him in the second half in that way, and I thought that maybe we would see a little more of Justice and Jam in the second half. And there was several quarterback design runs, and it just felt like an off game for both Justice and Jam as far as carrying the football. I didn't feel like either guy carried the ball like they normally do. And so, but I want to give Georgia credit. Like I said, I mean, Carson Beck, to have the 2 turnovers in the first half. I mean, everything. You go to halftime down 30-7 on the road, hostile environment, and then you come out and you're the 4th downs. You brought the 4th downs. Alabama had several of those 4th downs covered on those slants, and Beck was putting them in the only place he could to convert those 4th downs. I mean, sometimes you just got to tip your hat to the other guy, because Beck was making plays. His receivers were catching those slant patterns and picking up those 4th down conversions, which really made for the game to be even stranger than it already was. I mean, converting 5 of 5 on 4th down, and then I think Alabama was penalized on 2 more, maybe, which converted 2 other 4th downs for them. So 7 4th down conversions for Georgia in that game, if you include 2 penalties from Alabama. So a lot had to happen for Georgia to be able to come back, but I do want to give them credit. And I do think, like you mentioned, offensively, Alabama was kind of caught in no man's land on, hey, do we try to run the clock or do we try to stay aggressive? And before they knew it, Georgia was right back in the game, and then even took a lead late there in the 4th quarter. So I think Georgia, when they're so talented, I mean, they have so many playmakers and so much talent that you knew they were going to come back in the second half and make some plays. Now, I didn't think that Georgia would be able to eventually take the lead in that game, no matter what happened. I mean, I thought it would take a miracle for that to happen, but give them credit. They made some plays. And then, we all remember how the final 2 minutes played out with the 2 freshmen for Alabama making the game saving plays. And I think that's got to be really encouraging for Alabama fans.
Yeah. I mean, it just, the first half was a lot of pressure on Georgia. I don't think Georgia performed well when they were under pressure. When you're down 30-7, how much pressure is there?
Right.
They start getting some things going, some momentum going. You start making a comeback. But when it's, you've taken the lead and then Alabama's retaken the lead, now it's pressure. Go down there and granted, to be fair, that type of play can happen to anybody. But I do find it interesting that throws an interception again.
Yeah.
When the game's on the line. So it's one of those things where I completely agree with you, and this is what I'm having a hard time with is going back and looking. I found myself defending Georgia a lot, and you're like, okay, just remove the helmet, just remove the it being a Kirby Smart team and all that. How would you be viewing this if this was Hugh Freeze's Auburn or Eli Drinkwich's Missouri or any other team? And so It's like, okay, and based off of what I saw, and this is, I know this is going to sound like it's just me defending Alabama. I cover Alabama, Homer, whatever you want to call it, but it's just what I saw. And bottom line is more than likely we're going to find out eventually. So, we'll see what ends up happening from there. Let's talk a little bit about Vanderbilt, because you are correct. This is a much scrappier team than I think people give them credit for. And I think that all starts with your head coach, and I think it starts with your quarterback. And, they're both hard-nosed guys. I mean, when you look at Diego, Pavia, you look at Clark Lee, these guys, they battle their tails off, man. I understand, the head coach ain't out there on the field, but, man, you can just tell he coaches hard. He's building something in Nashville compared to what they've had. I mean, this is the best I've seen them look in several years. Does that mean that they're going to, keep it close with Alabama? I don't know. That's what we're here to kind of talk about today. But anybody that's looking at this as, this is as close to like, a group of 5 opponent that you can have that's in the SEC, I wouldn't view them that way, because I think that they are much better this year than they've been in recent years.
Yeah, they are. And it starts with Clark Lee, like you mentioned, the mentality he has, it kind of is poured into his team, and they play hard for him. Their quarterback, I'm so terrible at pronouncing names, so their QB is a really good quarterback. He's just kind of I don't know how, like, you ever go to like a 5 or 6A high school in Alabama, and the quarterback is, you look at him and you're like, is that dude really their quarterback? Like, he doesn't have the prototypical build, but the dude just makes plays, makes winning plays, I guess is the best way to put it. If it's 3rd and 4, he's going to pick up those 4 yards. I mean, he has that type of
however he needs
mindset.
to.
Whatever he's got to do to make the play for his team, that's what he does. And so he just reminds me of like a 4 or 5A, 6A high school quarterback who, doesn't have the flashy skill set or size or athleticism, but just makes those winning plays for his team. And so that's what I see in him. And it's kind of the entire Vanderbilt team. They play hard. They're a couple field goals away from upsetting Missouri, before their bye week. So they did take down Virginia Tech, who nearly beat Miami, maybe even probably did beat Miami if you want to go that far. So this is a quality Vanderbilt team. Alabama should go in there and take business, but with all that has happened over the past few days, it certainly is possible that they could go up there and not have the right mindset, go in there a little sluggish, I guess, and I don't want to say lay an egg, but not perform up to their true abilities and let Vanderbilt hang around in that game a little bit. But the truth is, Alabama's talent, the discrepancy in talent is just too much for Vanderbilt. Alabama is just too loaded. I think I made the comment the other day to somebody I was talking to that, Alabama could probably accidentally go into Nashville and score 35 points without even playing well. So it's just one of those things where the talent discrepancy is so wide that Alabama would have to be a massive chaos for this game to go in Vanderbilt's favor. But that doesn't mean that Vanderbilt's not capable of playing them tough, because I think they're going to play them tough, and they also have belief. I think that's another thing this Vanderbilt team has is they play hard for their coach. They believe in their coach. I think they believe in the leaders of their team, which starts, I think, with their quarterback. And they have some veteran players on defense that play well, but overall, the talent, the difference in talent is probably going to be too much for Vanderbilt to overcome to make this a real close game.
Yeah. It is interesting just watching the Missouri game, the success that they had on the ground. Missouri or Vanderbilt was playing pretty well as far as the run defense, prior to this past game. And their running back at Noel, he ended up having close to 200 yards, averaged 8.3 yards per carry. Brady Cook, he has not been as effective this year. I think that them not having a consistent complementary run game has kind of affected him a little bit. Cody Schrader's no longer there. He was a big part of their offense last year, but they still got Luther Burden. You still got Theo Weiss. So they've still got playmakers. And so it's a good Missouri team. Is it a top 10 Missouri team? I guess time will tell. I have my doubts, but Vanderbilt, the fact that they were able to keep it close, and really in a lot of ways, I feel like Vanderbilt was the better team.
Yeah,
I agree. It was kind of strange watching, but Pavia, that's just a guy who, you're 100% correct. You watch him play and you're like, I really don't understand how he's kind of doing some of the things that he's doing, but he's gritty, man. I just don't know how else to put it. And he has such a great mentality as far as just, he's one of those fearless quarterbacks. He steps out there and he's not afraid to do anything. And that makes him dangerous. It makes him really dangerous. But I agree with you. I feel like Vanderbilt's, whether it was an intended shot or not. I don't think Nick Saban was wrong when he said that it's the only place in the SEC that doesn't provide really a home field advantage is Vanderbilt. I wouldn't be shocked at all if there were more Alabama fans there on Saturday than there are Vandy fans. But that's still considered their house, and they still view it that way. So getting this game at home, I will say it's better than going to Tuscaloosa if you're Vanderbilt. It might not be quite the advantage that you want it to be for you, but at least the other team doesn't have the same advantage they would in their home, stadium. Right. So, what are some things that maybe you're looking out for from Alabama this week? I think we've already kind of touched on one a little bit, and this is the first box that's got to get checked. This is a game you're, a pretty heavy favorite. You're expected to win pretty big. You're coming off a very physical, very emotional game against Georgia. Kind of where do you go from here? Can you handle the pressure of being number one? Everybody's singing your praises, even though maybe not everybody's singing your praises. People
Yeah.
are still saying they feel like Georgia was the better team. But I mean, you're number one, and you are getting a ton of respect. And so, how do they handle, this type of game after that? I think it's a good thing it's not an 11 a.m. kickoff. That would just kind of set it up even more, in my opinion. But what are some things you're looking out for this weekend?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking this week about the running backs, and I briefly mentioned how I don't want to say I was disappointed in the way Jam and Justice played against Georgia. They didn't really have a ton of opportunities in that game, but I think it would be a good week for Alabama to try to get those guys more involved in the running game. A lot of what it has to do with, though, is the fact that Alabama's been running a lot of RPO. Milroe has pulled a lot of those. And so that has taken away some carries, and that's another thing. I kind of a soapbox for me is fans always want somebody else to get the ball. I mean, it don't matter how successful things are going, they want somebody else to have the ball in their hands. I mean, to start the year, it's where's Jeremy Bernard? Well, now it's now that
Kendrick Law.
now it's Kendrick Law. Well, last week, Justice and Jam maybe didn't touch the ball as much as folks wanted, so everybody's clamoring for those two guys to have the ball. Look, there's only one football to go around, and you only have so many plays, so it's not going to be a case where every guy can have 15 touches a game. It's not feasible. So you kind of have to go with, and I think this is something this coaching staff, Coach DeBoer and Coach Sheridan have done, is it feels like they feed the hot hand. And obviously in that Georgia game, that was Milroe, and that was Jeremy Bernard, and that was Ryan Williams. And so they really focused the offense in that game, and even CJ Dupree a little bit for that matter. So I think they feed the hot hand, but I do think going into this Vanderbilt game, it's really important that you give defenses something else to look at moving forward for the rest of the season. You need to get Justice and Jam involved in the running game, whether it's just design runs, not giving Milroe that RPO option, just a straight downhill run to Jam or Justice. I think involving a Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law, if healthy and is playing, Cole Adams, even a E-Man, Emmanuel Henderson, who made a really big play, was at the opening drive against Georgia. So just getting other playmakers. We know what Ryan Williams can do. We know what Jeremy Bernard can do. Those two guys are playmakers for this offense. So I think offensively, I would like to see Alabama try to feature some other guys, but you have to feed the hot hand. If it's Ryan Williams again, that's who you feed. But getting a running game going outside of, because Milroe is what the leading rusher, tied with Jam Miller right now, I believe, as far as yards, rushing yards. So getting Jam or Justice more involved running the football, I think just, if anything, it just sets things up down the road for defenses to have to focus on. When you're thinking about playing against South Carolina, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma, just giving those opposing defenses something else to have to plan for. So I want to see that, and defensively, I don't know if teams are going to start going for it on fourth down with as much success as teams have had this year against Alabama. 10 of 14 teams are this year against Alabama on fourth down conversions. I think tied for 115th in the country. So what's crazy is how great Alabama's been on third down defensively, and how it's just the polar opposite on fourth down. So I guess I would like to see the Alabama defense get off the field more, whether that's on third down or fourth down, and just continue to force those turnovers and be just very disruptive defensively. And I thought one key thing in the second half of that Georgia game was maybe a lack of a consistent pass rush on Carson Beck. A lot of that had to do with what Georgia was doing offensively, but it would be nice to have get to the quarterback a little bit more in this game as well. That's just kind of a couple of the high notes I'm looking for on each side of the football.
Yeah, the pass rush thing to me, sometimes we know something, we know going into the year something, and then it gets confirmed, but it just doesn't look how you want it to look. So then you still get upset about it. Like we knew going in that Kane Womack's defense, it's pressure for turnovers, not pressure to sacks. Like it's He's never been this. He's never had double-digit sack guys. Like, we talked about it, the Bandits leading, previous defenses, in years past, for South Alabama with like 6.5 sacks. Like there was one year that I went back and looked, whether it's South Alabama, Indiana, wherever, where Kane Womack had a double-digit sack guy, and it was 12.5 sacks. It was back in like 2017. So it's been a very long time. But I mean, and so you look at Georgia and you say, I mean, they were pressuring him enough where he turned the football over 4 times. So, mission accomplished there. You know what I'm saying? And the reason that I bring this up is that I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying that, and I get it because I fall into this trap too. Like you look at the numbers and stuff, and it's like it just don't look like it has with Will Anderson and Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell, and it's like, but really going into the year, what we expected this defense to be, it's kind of been, to a T. Like we knew there would be some issues in the secondary. There would be some opportunities for teams downfield on the explosive plays as they continue to get better. That has happened. The pass rush is doing its job as far as, when they were very aggressive in the first half, and I do think they dialed that back just a little bit, not on that first drive of the second half. I mean, they were still coming after him. But it did seem like they kind of pulled back a little bit on that. But they've been doing, everything's kind of fallen in line, kind of how you were expecting to an extent. You never want to see, what Georgia was able to do as far as the yardage they put up in the second half, the points in the second half. So that's going to concern people. But it was like you're in 2-minute offense for an entire half. 2-minute offense for 2 quarters. Go see how often teams that go into 2-minute offense, how successful they are as far as moving the football downfield. It's like you're seeing it every single week from multiple teams, whether it be on the NFL level or the college level. And so, I just I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody. I just think that I was impressed with the defense. I didn't come away with the same gripes as a lot of people did. I also will say, as far as the clock, some people were upset about, not letting enough time come off the clock. And I went back and monitored that. And I do think there was some times, but there was a couple of plays in particular, I want to say I noticed it maybe 3 or 4 times, which to a lot of fans, that would be enough. But on 2 of them, Alabama had gotten the first down to Ryan Williams. They go hurry up to catch Georgia off guard because they had just given up a touchdown. And they're saying, okay, we need to start generating some offense and some points. So they start getting back into that more aggressive mentality. They go hurry up, and they pop Georgia for a big play immediately, a 54-yard gain of Ryan Williams on the next play. But if they don't go hurry up, that probably doesn't happen. It was the tempo catching Georgia off guard that caused that. And then after that play, Jalen Walker gets hurt, and he's out there for forever. And so it's a break in the action. And then, they finally walk him off the field. Alabama's offense gets out there. They start rolling the play clock, but not the game clock. And it was supposed to be both. So then there was some confusion there. They had to reset that. And by that point, it's like everybody's been standing around for minutes and minutes. Yeah. Once they actually do start that clock back again, do you sit there and wait for another 40 seconds? You know what I'm saying? So it was like, by that point, they snapped it pretty quickly. And it's like, I get it. Like, I mean, you're not going to, after all that waiting, you're not going to get on the football and just wait a long time again. So, all of this stuff, if you really go back and look, some of it is justifiable. So if I'm ever criticizing somebody, I've really tried to go do my homework, and I feel like, that, and there were times where I was like, hey, you're snapping it with 12, 13 seconds left. You could probably get in, at 7 or 8. But last weekend's game was I have such a hard time knowing what to take away from it. And that's why I take so much on the first half, because I feel like that was legitimate football, and just everything that was wacky in the second half, it's hard to know what Georgia is and what Alabama is based off of that.
Yeah, and especially because when a team has 4 downs to pick up a first down, and they know that for the rest of the game, that changes everything. And that changed so much for Alabama defensively. It did for Georgia. It changes how you call plays when you're the offensive coordinator, when you have 4 downs instead of 3. So that part of it too really made that game. It changed. I mean, it just changed everything. So I'm with you on that. That second half is so hard to really take too much away from it, because it was just weird. I mean, it was all just weird. I know I've said that word so many times.
I'm not saying that people are wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
and so that's what so I'm not saying, oh, you're totally wrong. They're totally fine defensively. You're not going to see any problems. I'm just saying, based off of that, the way that the second half transpired, that's still a TBD for me. I just
Yeah.
have such a hard time with the way things were playing out. Could you imagine just essentially you going out for a drive and they're like, hey, if you want to take a bunch of shots on first down, we've now made it to where first down doesn't count unless you hit a big play.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would do for anybody's offense. It lets you take a bunch of chances, and now you've got your typical 3 downs to work with. And there's some pressure if you get to fourth down. But when you're down by that much, it's like, who cares if we get beat by 30 or 37 or we're getting beat by 23? We're already catching the ass whipping.
Right.
Pardon my French, but that's exactly what's happening. So, what does it matter? Just it takes so much pressure off. And then all the pressure, you could tell Alabama in the second half was very much like, don't blow this, don't blow this, don't blow this. Oh crap. We go three and they go 3 and out. Then we match the 3 and out. And now they've gone down. They scored a touchdown. Crap, man. We got to get it together. We got to get it together. And then, things start, slipping away from you a little bit. And that's where, you got to have the mental fortitude to be able to push through some of that. You got to be able to figure out a way to get some fourth down stops. So anybody that has complaints, I'm not saying don't have complaints. I'm just saying, if that game, to take a page out of my best friend Hugh Freeze's book, you play that game 9 more times, or the second half 9 more times, and I don't think it plays out that way or even close. That's the way this one worked out.
You're exactly right. And football is about matchups and situations, and I'm willing to bet a lot of money that situation that the Alabama defense was in for that entire second half, it's not likely that ever happens again, where a team knows they have 4 downs to get the first down every single possession they
for
have.
An entire half.
Yeah, that's rarely going to happen. So
and especially, I'm this time I've interrupted you, and I apologize,
no,
but
you're
especially a team the caliber of Georgia. If this is Vanderbilt going into this, crap, I'm not trying to take a shot at Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
but if they do it, they might be able to take advantage a little bit, but I don't think they have the talents and the abilities of Georgia. So I don't think they're going to be able to exploit having that ability for an entire half like Georgia was able to. So it's an elite team getting to have that mentality for an entire half. That's what's different, in my opinion. Normally, your talent, the reason you're up so much is because you're that much better. So that kind of cancels that out a little bit. In this type of game, it's like, I still think Alabama is, not a much better team, but it's not neck and neck to me. I think Alabama's clearly ahead, but it's close enough where if they get those opportunities, it's going to make a difference, no doubt.
Yeah, because Georgia has the dudes to do it. But I'm with you. I think it's clear after the SEC championship game and after this game, and I know it's 2 different years, but the general makeup of both rosters to me is close enough to where you can say Alabama's the better football team. Now, it's not by much, but they are the better, more complete football team. And I think a lot of that has to do with what Alabama can do offensively, as far as what the skill set of the quarterback is and the type of playmakers they have out wide, whether it's Jeremy Bernard or Ryan Williams, and what Milroe can do both with his arms and his legs. And I think that's the difference maker. And, that's what we all talked about leading up to the game last week was, I think Alabama has the edge because of what they can do offensively. And, Carson Beck's a great quarterback. He's going to probably be a first-round pick. But when you have a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, who, by the way, played the game of his life in that first half, was just unbelievable.
Superman.
He played like the best football player in college football in that first half. He was unbelievable. So that version of Jalen Milroe is unstoppable. I don't care what you do defensively. Yes. There's not one thing you can do defensively to stop that version of Jalen Milroe in the first half. So, the growth that he has made over the past, year is, you go back to that Texas game last year to now, he is a completely different football player. And, I would like to say that I thought he could be what he was Saturday night, but I'm not sure. I always thought he could be a really good player. Don't get me wrong. But what he is right now, I'm not sure. I'm just gonna admit I didn't think he could reach that level.
I mean, I'm with you. I just think what is it as far as identifying as hot reads, picking up on that instantly. If that corner blitzes, immediately where you're going with the football, and give Ryan Williams some credit for understand. I got to sit down here. Cornerback's coming on a blitz. But just having that ability, that alone, because that has been kind of what has rattled Jalen Milroe at times, is when he's put under pressure. He holds on to the football a little too long. Sometimes it takes him a while to process things, or at least it has. Now he's processing a little bit faster. Things are getting easier. And there's elements of that side of things where now that that's starting to come along, he can make you pay. And that's why I think Georgia started backing off quite a bit in the second half, or at least in certain situations, is because they're like, man, we weren't really anticipating his ability to do this to this degree, and he's destroying us on it. And so we got to kind of play straight up. Alabama was doing a lot of this with Carson Beck. It's like, put this guy under pressure. And, there was some miscues, I will say, going back and watching on Georgia's part, where they could have taken advantage of some things that Alabama did. They sent the house one time, and it was I think it was a tunnel screen or something that they had called, and just the receiver didn't get the call. It was pretty clear he ran the wrong route because of what everybody else was doing. It was clear he was the one that was off. It wasn't Carson Beck. And, it ends up being an interception. Damani Jackson's first career interception, by the way. So kudos to him. But yeah, I know we've, talked a lot. I said, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the Georgia game, but it's so important to me as far as like the rest of the season's concerned, because I was so impressed with them. Like, I'm viewing this team so differently than I was even a week ago. And, a lot of people are concerned about things. And it's like, if I'd have told you that, Alabama was going to win that football game 41, what was it, 41-37?
41-34.
Yeah, 41-30. You're right. It was a touchdown. You're correct. People would have been thrilled, but it was the way that it happened. It's like, okay, did Georgia figure something out in the second half that they're now going to be able to use? Is the second half what we're always going to see when these two teams play? And that is what seems like a little bit of an overwhelmed Alabama and a very confident Georgia. And there are about 12 reasons why that will not be the case.
No, I agree with you.
And so that's why, but we'll see. But the most important thing this weekend is Vanderbilt is continuing to improve on the things that you need to improve on. There were some issues. I got to tell you, man, I've praised the guy. I loved the guy preseason. I thought it was criminal how he wasn't at least in the conversation for some of these all, American list or all SEC list. But at least against Georgia, Jaden Roberts did not have a great game. He was, nose over toes is what they like to say. And man, he was whiffing left and right. And it was a lot of your run game problems were that. There was one where it was inside zone. And just Jam Miller didn't even have a chance. As soon as he gets the football, he immediately tries to bounce it outside because, he had whiffed the defensive lineman. It ended up taking up another block that was trying to work up to the safety and the linebacker, and he wasn't able to do it because he's getting the defensive lineman. Now there's two guys sitting in that gap where Jam's supposed to be going, and, so he's got to play better. I would like to see him play better. He's capable, and he did some good things on Saturday. I just think that there was enough, whether it be, there was some in pass protection, and there was definitely some as far as the run blocking. And he's a mauler, man. When he gets his hands on you, you're in big trouble. But he plays a little too loose. He's one of those linemen that ends up on the ground a little too much. He's got to have a little bit more balance. But that I think that he needs to play better. There are other guys that need to play better, but I'm with you. I would like to see them get some more guys involved, put some more stuff on tape, and say, hey, you want to spend your entire game plan or preparation for us on Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams. Well, let me put some things on tape to tell you why you're wrong to do that. You need to be focusing more on these guys too. And then that takes away from their ability to prepare for those two guys, and which should help them. The less time they're spending on those two, the better. Because I do think that's kind of, you got a lot of other pieces of your offense that can be very, very effective, but that's your bread and butter right there. Those are going to be a problem. I don't see how you stop that combination with Milroe's legs and what all he can do. So is there anything else that you want to throw out here before we hop out of here?
Yeah, just real quick, and I know we talk so much about Georgia, and it's really not a shade at Vanderbilt. I have a lot of respect for Clark Lee and that program. I think he's doing a great job, but the truth is Alabama is the much superior team, and they should win this game. I think this, 24, I think is what this 23-24 is what the spread was the last time I looked. This is a game where Alabama has a chance, and I think even like from Kalen DeBoer's perspective of, hey, look, the standard hasn't changed. We're not satisfied with beating Georgia and becoming the #1 team in the country. We want to have that 1-0 mentality, that week by week mentality, so they can come out and make a statement this week that, hey, look, we didn't put all our eggs in the Georgia basket. We're here to stay. We're gonna take care of business this week against Vanderbilt, and we're just gonna take week by week approach, get better, like you mentioned, in the areas we need to get better in each and every week, and just continue to build as the season continues. So, like I said, I don't want people to think we're overlooking Vanderbilt, but this is a game for Alabama to like I think you brought it up, kind of it's a checkbox game. I mean, you got to check the box here. Look, we're the better team. We're the better program. Forget what happened last week. Let's just build on what happened last week and continue to get better. And I think this is a good opportunity for Alabama. I think it's a good opportunity for Jalen Milroe to continue to show that first half against Georgia wasn't some kind of fluke, which I don't think it was. I think he is blossoming into the player that he is going to be for the rest of the season. So just a really good opportunity for him, the entire offense, and the entire team to just kind of build off what they did last week and show that, look, that wasn't a fluke. We're here to stay. We're going to get better each and every week and just continue to climb that mountain to push for an SEC championship down the road.
100%, man. Good stuff, man. Appreciate you hopping on here with me. This has been fun. For anyone who hasn't already, like this video, but subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's super important. Also, go subscribe to covercrimson.com. Stacey's already ahead of me here. He's got it covered. If you sign up for the yearly subscription, you get that wicked awesome t-shirt that he's wearing. If you want to go with the $1 for 1 month route, you want to try us out a little bit, totally understand. You can do that as well, but you do get that really cool t-shirt if you do the annual. And we're building the message board. Stacey's doing a phenomenal job. Mick's over there. I'm over there. We're all having a good time. A lot of great commenters, a lot of great conversations happening. And then, as I said, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us. We appreciate you guys way more than you can ever know. And we will talk to you guys soon. Stacey, I appreciate you as well. And I will talk to you soon.
See you, bud.